When I get nervous, I tend to be super gassy. I'm just kidding. Fun fact for you, that's a quote by none other than me that I said when I was in 8th grade. And of course, that's a lie too. Shaw once said that I often quote myself. It adds spice to my conversation. Now I hope that you guys didn't take me seriously because that's a terrible quote and I don't get gassy when I'm nervous. Let's take Barney for example, Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. That guy quotes himself, cites himself on the daily. And so basically, I'm going to disagree with what Shaw said. I think it adds more spice to a conversation when you can quote someone as cool as Barney Stinson. Or today, I'll be talking to you about my 3 favorite movies that I personally go to quote when I want to add spice to my conversation. Those 3 movies are White Chicks, Mean Girls, oh man, and Pineapple Express. Now, first I'll talk about Mean Girls. I first saw Mean Girls about 2 years ago. I know it came out 10 years ago, which all of us makes us feel ancient in a way. So I saw it 2 years ago, and I thought, how come I have never seen this movie, even though it's one of the most quotable movies people always go to. And it stuck with me ever since. From one-liners like, you go Glen Coco, or when a fan of Regina George said, I heard she had her hair insured for $10,000. Little things like that make it seem so much more fun to quote movies like Mean Girls. The other movie, which is White Chicks, is my all-time favorite movie ever, probably next to Airplane, because of all the lines that they say are so terrible, the acting is so terrible, but they make up for it with corny and cheesy lines like, "What a beautiful chocolate man!" I could go to that every single time and people would laugh instantly, even though I probably look like a dork or sound like a dork. But I don't care because it adds spice to the conversation. And my last movie, which is Pineapple Express, is my all-time favorite stoner movie, which I try not to watch with my parents because it doesn't add spice to the conversation. It just adds suspicion. So, for those 3 movies, I always go to spice up my conversation because I refuse to quote myself as being gassy every time I'm nervous. Thank you.
No, you keep that.
Okay.
Keep it as a memory.
Thank you.
Good job. I think that was so funny.
The only thing is track. I was just
You were funny, I guess.
I was researching.
No, you'd be here. Yeah. It's gonna rain. Well, they can tell when it's raining.
Sounds like British.
Oh yeah, Kevin G.
Well, they know when it's raining. You're Kevin G. Kevin G.
Yes.
See, you're adding spice to the conversation. You go, Coco.
I thought I was going to freeze those.
All right, Jose, I think everybody enjoyed the attention device, and we're glad that it was really just a joke as opposed to something that was true. The thesis statement is pretty clear. You identify what you're topic is, what your quote is, and how you're going to treat it. That's fine. You preview what you're going to use as the structure, the 3 movies that you talk about. That's great, so that makes it pretty easy to keep track of things. They don't come up in the order in which you originally suggested them, but that wasn't a big deal because we did know that the other ones were coming, and I thought that was okay. Sometimes it would be helpful to know why the quotes that you're using are important, meaningful, interesting. I know why they're funny in the white girls thing, because they just sound silly, and like you said, they're kind of stupid. But I'm not exactly sure why all of the ones that you have from the Mean Girls were memorable, important, interesting, why you hold on to them, why you think of it as being quotable. It just seemed a little odd to me. I could guess in the context. I saw the movie once 10 years ago, so if I knew it well, maybe I'd be laughing like other people were. I think you need to kind of give us a little bit more on that. On the last one, I thought that instead of giving us the quotes, you kind of gave us the reason why you don't want to be quoting it, and I thought that was really an effective idea to use for making the point that you have there. So all the content stuff I think is pretty solid. Maybe you could do a little bit more with that first one, but you at least had ideas to talk about there. On the presentation, almost everything is pretty solid. I thought your voice projected well. Great variety. You've got a lot of character voices that you do in the presentation, which is nice, and it flows smoothly. I do think your gestures are a little bit limited. It appears that you've got that topic between your 2 sets of fingers, and that's where you're going to keep your hands as a result. So you look a little bit defensive that way. Your eye contact with the audience is really solid. I was a little surprised your facial expressions weren't more vivid. They were fine. There wasn't anything problematic about them, but since you were doing the character voices and those other things, it just seemed like maybe there would be a chance to do something a little bit more engaging. Not anything that you should be worried about, just like I said, it just seemed a little bit more subdued than I was expecting. Maybe your anxiety is a little too controlled because of those gestures, so you might want to be careful about that, and I thought you had a solid summary and exit at the end of the speech. All right, thank you.